The fourth one, which I think is interesting and can be aggravating, is the
Oh,
fire
yes.
hydrant.
Oh, this is a tough one for me.
Yeah. Talk about the fire hydrant just for a second. When you talk to a fire hydrant, what is that? And
You
what does
run
it feel
from
like?
them when you see them in the grocery store. I'm just kidding.
Why is that?
The fire hydrant is just so maximizing. They take up so much space around them, because they talk so much that they don't even give the other person any space to say anything, or at least they wait so long before they give a break in the conversation for the other person to be able to respond. But it's really tough. It's tough for me to be around this person because they lack so much self-awareness of how they're coming across to the other person.
Yeah, they're almost always super nice, aren't they? Super nice people.
Super sweet. A lot of times very expressive, which is why that's kind of their comfort zone, is just
Right.
the waterfall of words.
Just a natural talker, but there's they don't create enough room for two people in the conversation. You typically know a fire hydrant when they call you and you look at the phone and you take a deep breath because you don't know if you have that much time to answer the phone.
Oh, that's so true.
And we all know
Yeah.
that. We know people like
Yeah.
that. I remember,
Yeah.
without saying names, I had to have a conversation with somebody who was a dear friend of mine that was a fire hydrant, and I had to talk to them about this. I remember I met them on the border, and I finally was committed to share with them after years of knowing them that I feel like you don't take enough time to take an interest, in me. And whenever I need to get off the phone, you just go on and on and on, and you don't stop. And it's aggravating. And if you're doing it to me, I can only imagine you're doing it to so many other people. And it was tough for them. It was very tough for them to hear that feedback because typically fire hydrants are sensitive to people. And that's one of the reasons they talk so much, is because they're wanting to create a positive energy and to be fun and just over communicate. And the word that you use is exactly right? They overly maximize the conversation. So for them, what would be one tip you would give a fire hydrant for them to begin improving themselves? What's the one thing you would say for them to try to really work on?
It's very simple. I would say listen more than you speak.
Yeah.
Just try to start practicing that habit to listen more than you speak, which is probably really hard for a really highly expressive person to do.
Yeah, no doubt. I've got a rule called the 4Q rule. You're right. What does 4Q stand for?
4 questions.
Four
You got to ask
questions.
4 questions.
That rule
it's a good
I wrote
rule.
that about that in my first book. That rule was born out of a coaching session that I had with a fire hydrant. And after multiple sessions of me barely being able to get a word in edgewise, and I was the coach, and yet I could barely get a word in edgewise, I finally realized I needed this person to become more aware of how much they were just dominating the time. I mean, out of a 55-minute coaching session, I would say easily 45 to 47 minutes of it was them just talking. And I came up with the 4Q rule, and I challenged them. Don't let a single conversation go by where you don't ask at least 4 questions. And that was tough for them. They admittedly said to me how challenging and difficult that was for them. And they didn't know why. And I said, it's because you're not a good listener. And so the fire hydrant really has to work on that impulse, don't they?
And reinforced habits. I think it's reinforced habits. No one's ever said, hey, you know what? You're a fire hydrant. So they don't know.
Yeah, we don't want to hurt
Right.
their feelings. Yeah.